Good morning and welcome back to our Pacific Morning Show. This is our awesome relaunch. Yes, we are going live on a Friday morning. We usually go live on Monday, but today we have a very special episode with some awesome people. I've missed doing the show, but we're back. We're up and running and we've got some awesome topics to relay back to all of you. On today's show, we have some amazing trailblazers in the industry right now sitting next to me. One with a very awesome hat, although he wears many hats. We have Tauiliili Alpha Maiava and Uluaki Maka, who are here to share many things about the great work that they're doing with indigenous sounds of the Moana. How are you guys this morning?
Good.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
thanks.
Manawatia Matariki, since it's Matariki today. And we just want to say come to Maori to all our Kiribati families, because it is their language. And happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Hey, TGIW. Anyway, Friday, hey, Friday spelled differently in other parts of the world, okay? It starts with an M.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like your glasses this morning.
Look, I'm not advertising them at all, but it's $2. This is like the fourth pair of the same pair. You know how awesome it is when you go somewhere and you just forget a pair of glasses and don't have a heart attack?
Yeah.
I am $2 for life.
Yeah, I have like 5 pairs of $2 glasses in my glove box just in case.
I've seen your receipts. Okay. $2 Louis Vuitton. Don't lie.
Yeah,
now.
$2 Louis
You ain't
Vuitton
got
from the
to
Mangere
lie,
Town
Fred.
Center. Thank you guys so much for joining me. We had an episode last year which did amazingly well. We had so much feedback from Pacific people all across the world, and they wanted you to come back.
Wow. People ain't got no lives or what?
Yeah.
I'm the most boring person in my life.
And they say give the people what they want.
Wow.
So thank you for coming back. We really appreciate it. And I now have the chance to share all the feedback and get some of the questions that people have asked about that episode, and we can talk about that. But first, how's your guys' week been?
Uluaki?
Busy. Yeah, it's been great just promoting our Sounds of the Moana composer Fono to those who are interested, and just raising awareness so that if they want to come, learn a few things about our ancient Moana sounds, they're more than free to come and join us.
That's awesome. Could you introduce yourself a bit, please, Uluaki?
Malolele, ko kuingoa, ko Uluaki Maka, Fuliwai Kaivelata, o ko lele mai me kanoku polo, whala osi niu tō tolu, ka kano o polo, mo tō tuanga kawa, malo.
And yourself, Alpha?
Yeah, okay. Wakalawhara heo te ke mangwhua ki amataluosi. Whatalo whatu le maro tātou tino, o Tauiliili Alpha Maiava. Ia tele lawa fo ina lao nei tangata mai awasele ni we, le tongo, a whaali I o tuali, a whaapiasa vai manisi lava, so se lalwhanga. Whaatai mo leo noa le tai. Thank you for the opportunity.
Amazing. Thank you. Alpha, we had a pretty good discussion this morning about some of the work that you're doing.
Oh.
The last podcast we had, we talked about your Sounds of Moana award-winning podcast that got worldwide recognition on top of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. I mean, that was a crazy one. And whenever I talk about that podcast, I always have to acknowledge the people there, because the reality is people heard my part of it, but I was just part of a team. So I always acknowledge one of Tonga's greatest minds of our time, Hufanga he ako mai lotu, Dr. Okositino Mahina. And then we also have 2 uncles from the Cook Islands, John Kiria and Moana Maeva. Also a legendary Samoan orator from the Nonumalo clan, and that is Fetalainga Leunga Atasofara. And Rita Simontafa, who was the only female that we had on our team. She is a Samoan ethnomusicologist that just completed her PhD out of Australia. And also Fayumu Matthew Salapu. People know him as Anonymous. He's a music producer.
Yes, I've heard of him. He's awesome.
He's done soundscaping, does stuff for Black Grace, but even on his own, it's that guy's world, And so we got together and did this podcast through SOUNZ, Centre for New Zealand Music, and then SOUNZ submitted it to the New York Radio Festival Awards. That is so you've got the Oscars for movies.
Yes.
That award is the Oscars for podcasting.
Man, that still blows my brains.
Oh, look,
Yeah.
us too, because you got a whole bunch of folks of different ages,
Yeah.
right? And we just got together, and we the funniest thing about it is we talked about things that we thought no one cares about our culture.
Mm.
You know how it was, no, do the Palangi stuff. People want to hear that. And then we got together, we did a 2-part series. So part 1 was called The Origin of Sounds, where we talked about the sounds of our people when we migrated to Aotearoa. When we left home to come here to seek whatever grass, greener fish and chips, any of that, what did we bring with us?
Mm.
And then the second series part of that was around the origin of our instruments. And so, we put it together, and after consulting the matuas, those who are much smarter than I, we decided to pick the Fangufangu, or the nose flute, that Uluaki will play as part of our being here.
Can't wait.
We also focused on the 4/4, which is the conch shell, but we did it from a Samoa perspective. The Fangufangu, or the nose flute, we took the perspective of Tonga and the Cook Islands. And then for the third instrument, we focused on the pate. Samoans call it lali. Other islands call it pate, depending on which part of the Moana you are. And then they submitted it. And we ended up we were in the same category as CNN,
Wow.
MSNBC, and also BBC. So if you know BBC is so greedy, there's BBC 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, exactly.
And
yeah.
they're all rich. And their budget to produce this sort of stuff is probably
millions.
As ridiculous. Yeah. Right? We had like a budget of 10 grand.
I'm not laughing at you, but
oh, no, we
I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, because especially when they told us we were shortlisted, we thought, oh yeah, they just needed to make the numbers, right? And that's
are we the diversity tick?
Yeah, and then we were also up against there's a lady called Miriam Margoyle. Now, if you currently watch, there's a program. It's called Almost Australian. She's also a British lady. She was doing a reading of Lord of the Rings. So that's who, and she's a famous actress. She's a very well-established British Hollywood cinema legend. And, to be able to come out and win gold in the music category over all of that, man, honestly. So when we got told that we were shortlisted, we were like, yay. And then, how when you're told you won gold, the first island thing you do is like, whatever, man. No. How much did you guys pay them?
Yeah.
And that's how it was. We weren't able to go over to Vegas to pick up the award because at that time, America was in the middle of their COVID.
Exactly.
So we celebrated in a small room in Wellington with donuts and some more diabetes. And that's all that went, and I think the biggest thing for us is it confirmed and reaffirmed that our stories the world wants to hear.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm so proud of you guys. $10,000 budget, winning that, kicking it out of the park is such an amazing achievement for our people, and it's so important. And now you, with that podcast and with that project, you made the most of what you have.
Yeah.
Now you're presented with more opportunities.
Yes.
Which we've talked about, sounds amazing. Could you tell us a bit about that?
So, first of all, just to recap, SOUNZ, Centre for New Zealand Music, is the organization that's been supporting and promoting all of these events. So they were founded in 1991, initially to look after the scores and compositions of New Zealand classical music. So you've got the classical musics of New Zealand, but then also the jazz musics. And then about 6 years ago, they expanded to include tangata whenua music, which is awesome. Because at the end of the day, when you take your classical music out there or to Europe, it's still Palangi music, isn't it? But when people look at Aotearoa, they're expecting to hear some brown people music.
Right.
So that was part of initially, we need to include the indigenous places in Aotearoa. And then about 2 years ago, we were lucky enough that they expanded that kaupapa to include the Moana. And when I say the Moana is, you have tangata whenua of this land, we are tangata Moana, those of us from other islands outside of Aotearoa. The first thing we did when we came together is we did a strategy, because SOUNZ wants to engage with you, but how can they? Which was really good. They didn't just go in typical Palangi organization of hire a brown-looking person who may as well be white. They literally came and engaged the community. So we called everyone.
Right.
We called the Tongan composers, the Fijian, whoever was composer in here, we brought them all together.
Mm.
And then that ended up with, how with the Sounds of the Moana podcast.
Mm.
So part of the fruit now is that we're using that to bring together composers.
Mm.
Because if you go on the Sounds website at the moment, you only see Palangi musics, and you also see Taonga Puoro or Maori musics. By the end of this year, you're gonna go on the website, and it's gonna have Tangata Moana composers, their profiles, their works, and we are expanding what a composer is. You see, classical music is Eurocentric.
It is very,
It is music based around the culture of Europe and the equipments and the instruments.
Mm.
So the question is, what is classical Moana? Well, classical Moana is Moana-centric musics composed with the ideology of using our equipments like the Fangufangu, but our stories, because that's what you call it, Bach and Beethoven's Figaro.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Molle Mozzarella, right? It's their
Yes.
stories.
Yep.
So we need to create our own. And some of them tried in the past, like the late Josefa Enari. I think he was one of the first Pacific Islander to write an opera.
Wow.
It had the early Jonathan Lemalu in there. So what we have a lot of is we have a lot of opera singers,
Yes, we do.
but we have very little people who play in orchestras. Why not? Well, I mean, we do know that the equipment costs a fortune.
Exactly.
That's why, a lot of the...
Yeah, and apparently it's really hard to like even make it into the orchestra, like the competitions.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we were unable to do it, but
Well, that's the
that's a good
thing, right?
question.
Because we've always used money as the catalyst to getting somewhere, we will always say it's expensive. But what sometimes when the talent is great, the universe will bend itself around to provide you what's required because the world needs it. So that's the belief behind what we're doing. We need to populate the classical realm, not by sacrificing our own definition of classical, but bringing ours to them. Because at the end of the day, we are part of Aotearoa. What's important to us should also be important to Aotearoa. So the world is looking, brighter from where I'm sitting, but we do know that we're up against a lot of pushbacks.
Yep.
Because remember, we're vocal people. Islanders, go sing a song. We're not expected to be you've got people like Tuilangi, Ingelese Ete, who was a great composer, part of the Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
We have Polima Salima, who's a composer who is now using his talent to bring in Samoan myths and legends.
Yes.
So for me, that's a success. You're learning Palangi style, but you're using it to bring our own style in. And then I've got people like Uluaki.
I know, right? Yeah.
Uluaki is currently only 2 years old. 18, right? But most people my brother's age is because we do love youth music too, right? But the only difference is we also love, is if not more, our traditional instruments.
Yes.
So for me, this is the future, right? And I'm hoping that at some point he's going to teach me so I can go and revive the Samoan Fangufangu, because we also had Fangufangu in our culture. I mean, well, for you, how did you get into it all? Because I'm doing all the talking here. It's the coffee. And it's Friday.
It's Friday. No, I think for me, it really just all started at home. I can't credit my father enough. So it was kind of a thing where I would see my dad doing it, and like Tauiliili said, I've been doing it for about 10 years. So I'm still like 8 at that point. I just want to go play. Where's the playground? But
yes.
When I see my dad doing things, I'm like, oh, I'll give it a try. And once my dad saw that their spark of interest and that that wanting to know more from me, he just kind of encouraged it. We kept kind of that fire lit within our home first for these like historical ancient musical instruments.
Yes.
And from there I just kind of took it and ran with it. Yeah.
Amazing. That's so good.
And not just the Fangufangu. So people that will come and see the workshop, so Uluaki and his father, I'm jealous, right?
Right.
Because I'm watching the old ways of how our people used to transfer knowledge. Remember, we weren't, and this is where we have to be really careful. Our people, when colonialism came into our races, they beat they beat out of us the power of oratory, right?
Yes.
They then convinced us that all of our stories are boogaloo myths and legends.
Yes.
When you move a story from actuality and tangibility to hoogabugaloo myth, you are saying it's not true.
Yes.
That's why they call it a myth and a legend.
Mm.
They did that. They also then say this pen and paper is mightier unless it is written is non-believable. Look at what we do now. To find out the whakapapa of our lands, we go to Berlin. Apparently, Berlin and Germany has the most completed record of Samoan lands because they were the ones who mapped Samoa. When they left, they took it with them. I think some portions of it were left to the Kiwis, but I mean, part of what I'm saying may partially be untrue, but most of it I've come across is that our records belong to someone else because pen and paper is now mightier than the oratory power
Absolutely.
of the people they once called the Dark Age. And I always ask people, so people who are dumb and stupid, were they able to navigate the stars like this?
Exactly.
So who's dumb? Right? But that's where a lot of what we do is demystifying and trying to readjust the narrative that we were left with. We always say to people that 2023, we are the product of a va'a that sailed in 1830. 1830 is when the church was established in Samoa. That was the change of Samoan history. And it changed the narrative of how a Samoan walks and talks.
Yes.
Now, 2023, all we're left with is a lot of beliefs, but filled with potholes of our actual culture. What we're doing is to make sure the va'a that's sailing now lands 200 years from today, a lot more together and more information for my children, their children's children, and whoever is going to come from me. And you and his children.
Yeah.
So that's the plan.
That's an amazing plan. You're absolutely pioneering in this space. How has it been to, like, you know how we're Pacific people are, we through oratory, we pass on our history.
Yeah.
How hard has it been to establish, you know, as you mentioned, the whole pen and paper thing? They wrote theirs down.
Yeah.
We have it through oratory. How hard has it been as a researcher to bring that all together and solidify it for you?
It's easy and hard. It's easy if I didn't need to source and cite.
Yep.
Because by sourcing and citing, it's taking away the mana of the word that my ancestor can tell me. Right? Look at it. Even if I go and get a Samoan or a Tongan to quote me something, if I'm to publish that,
Yes.
I have to cite it. According to the colonial system of how they write, and you know.
Yeah.
So
and is there kind of like a look down attitude on oral history in the research space, would you say?
They do have I mean, they do use it as a source, as a reference, but we do know that even if you're a scientist and if you are to publish a paper, you know you're going to have to fact find everything you publish before, right? So it's the same when it comes to these sort of narratives. The only but we're at a time now where we're able to sort of venture away from it. I'm saying that because the Sounds of the Moana podcast,
yes,
we work together to make sure that a lot of the people were uncited sources. This is why we went to Leunga, tapped into his matai.
Yes.
Because you can't, Kramer and Turner and all of these Palangi shoots, they cannot reference and criticize someone who is the product of generations of passing down of oratory. So in that way, yes, we're slowly getting that back. But most people say they go to the research center to find the truth. It's because they don't speak their languages. You see, if you understand Samoan, the history it's in the tongue.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But those of us who rely on researching it through the Papalangi's pen and paper, it's because their grasp of the language may not be at a level where to them it's believable.
I love that. I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
Because look, I grew up in Samoa, right? So I grew up watching people getting possessed, right? And so I also believe the stories of the spiritual Samoa, because I've seen it.
Yes.
Not all of it, but I grew up seeing it, right?
Yeah, and many of us have.
Yeah.
Many
So, but to our brothers and sisters who grow up outside of Samoa, because they grew up in a Papalangi world, you know, our stories are like, yeah, that's what they said.
Yeah.
But I can't argue against them.
Exactly.
Because they are the product of their environment, right? So, to answer your question, researching wise, it's getting better because we are now able to somehow independently rely on knowledge. And it helps when you've got knowledge holders. Because now I don't have to guess what a Fangufangu sounds like.
Absolutely.
I've got Uluaki and his father, Tu'ifonualava Kaivelata.
Yeah.
I've got Ma'ara, who can tell me the version of the Cook Islands. But I don't have a Samoan. Isn't that interesting? But Fangufangu and Samoan Tonga, they sound, the words are the same. The only difference is the Tongans, like some Eastern Polynesian cultures, they at the N. So F-A-N-G, whereas our one is Fangufangu as it's spelled.
Yeah, let's talk about that a bit, because how has your experience been learning it from your father?
Like Tauiliili said, I feel like it's a real special it's been a real special journey that passing down through oratory in our cultural way.
Yeah.
So man, this whole time I've just been trying to be a sponge to my father, just soak up all the knowledge, trying to learn as much as I can, because as Tauiliili mentioned again, this waka that we've sailed on, there's a few holes that's been put into it, a few things that's gone overboard, gone missing. Not at a fault of our own, but that's just the reality. So the whole purpose or the whole point of it for me is making sure that the waka 200 years from now, hopefully we were able to mend some of those holes, bring back some of that knowledge, and leave our children, our grandchildren with a better foundation than we were left with. So that's what it is for me.
Yeah, and do you know, is there many Tongan people who can play, or is it a dying?
More than Samoan.
More than Samoans, and
more than the Cook Islands.
If you were to put a number on it,
half a handful maybe.
No, it depends on the levels. Like there, I know for a fact that there is a Tongan sister by the name of Anau. She is the owner of Four Shells.
Yeah.
She tries to engage our age group. So she puts on these things called Fangufangu Jam.
Oh, cool.
Where you can go to Four Shells, and it doesn't matter what level you are. If you've got the heart to learn. So, you've got those circles.
Those are so valuable.
Yeah. And then you have, obviously, with Hikuleo or Onoaho, which is what Uluaki and his father's groups are. Then you have other collectives that are with Hufanga He Ako Malotu, Dr. Augustino. So the Tongans are quite blessed. I mean, for where they are at, you can see exponentially in the next 10 years, there'll be hopefully triple the number of Tongans that are playing.
Yes.
But Cook Island would be the same. But for us as Samoa, we have nowhere to start.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our last podcast that we did, we actually had a lot of feedback come through.
Right.
Talking about the Fangufangu, and so it was an instrument that Samoans used, but it was erased by colonization, or
look, the collision of cultures didn't just happen when colonization began. You know for a fact that if you look around the Pacific, you will always, no matter where you go in the Pacific, you always find these two islands, Tongans and Samoans. We were in Uvea together. We were in Fiji together. They took the north and we took the south. And then they came and retook Rotuma after us. Right?
Yes.
We have evidence that we've been through the Cook Islands together. We've been through Tahiti. And then we've been through to each other back and forth. So you'll find remnants even in Niue, we've always been there. And so what we're going through at the moment is we're relearning from one another. And this is an idea that was a thought that was shared by Moana Maiava. He said, Tauiliili, at the end of the day, when the Palangis always give narrative to things that would justify their perspective, right?
Right.
They said, oh, it's a dying art. But in reality, no, there is no dying art in the Moana. We just held it back until such a time. Now, let me tell you how it is. Right now, Samoa held back on Tātātau.
Yes.
But we lost everything else. So guess what we're doing now? We're helping the Tongans revive their Tātātau. We gifted the Maoris the hau. We definitely revived the Tahitian and the Marquesa.
Right.
So now the Tongans in the Cook Island are gifting the Samoans the knowledge of how to use the Fangufangu.
Right.
Now we're coming to the Maori to talk about tikanga that is free of religiosity. So you see, in a way, we are now reigniting and regifting it back to each other.
That's beautiful.
It's a Moana way.
Yeah.
Right? No matter where you are, as long as you're an islander, that's our common place.
Yeah.
Because we're ocean people.
That's awesome. I'll be very interested to see the journey of it being revived in the Samoa and
Me too.
how to find how we used it, because I have a comment here on your TikTok that you don't know how to use yet. So I think we need to get Alpha a TikTok specialist
Oh my Lord. Yeah.
to help him. But someone said it was a way that Tongans used to wake up royalty. Truth or fact or fiction?
What we always say is, you remember how us and Uluaki said that the va'a arrived with a few holes in it?
Yes.
So there are many narratives. Like in Samoa, we say talalasi, or mau ese ese, means different expression, different discovery. One of the narratives that Tonga talks about is that whakatofa, right?
Whakatakatofa.
Whakatakatofa is where you use it to wake up the royals, and then you also use it to, I guess, to help them sleep.
Yeah.
Right? But
Certainly.
now let's look at the reality of this.
Yes.
And in terms of royal,
Yes.
the iki that you now have, the Fangufangu was older than them. Like, because in Samoa, our Fangufangu was, you're looking at 80 AD, 950 AD, the same age as the Tongan, right? And so there are narratives that says that it puts and it awakens the royal family, but then there has to be some other, because you look at the age of the Fangufangu when you realize it's older than the royal family. So to actually say that it wakes and it puts the royal family to sleep is to almost ignore the life of the Fangufangu prior to the establishment of the royal family. And, no disrespect to the royal family.
And
but
holding its value to the royal family.
Yeah, it's like you're pegging it to the dollar.
Yeah.
When in reality, there's a history prior to that.
Yes.
So that is one narrative. That is one narrative that has been talked about, conversated about. But what we always try to do is we don't go against existing narrative.
Right.
You just have to play it for yourself and think, man, if I were to hear that in 950, I know what I was doing, because, no technology.
Yeah.
All we have is the wind. And for fun, we go swimming and climb coconut trees. So where does the Fangufangu come in there, right? So that's the discovery. And obviously that's a narrative where it puts the royal family, that awakens the royals, according to the narrative of Tonga.
Right.
Samoa has a different narrative that we have left.
What's that narrative?
So when I visited Te Papa, the team there have 3 Fangufangu that belongs to Samoa that no Samoans know exist.
Right.
The age is 1857. But the narrative that was recorded in some of, Richard Moyle's books and some of Kepler's and other the records that were kept by the Germans is that this was a casual tool, mostly seen played by females, but it was a casual tool, maybe a courting tool. Never know. Imagine yourself when there was no other disturbance. Well,
Yeah.
just imagine when you hear Uluaki will play Fangufangu. When you hear it, it's an emotional, evoking sound. Right? So the record is that it was a female one. When I visited Te Papa, there was one with an edging on it that they could not translate, and it was the name Tutulu. So Samoa Tutulu is Thierry, but it's also the name of a female, which almost affirms the fact that this must have belonged to a female. And that's part of the narrative that Samoa has. The youthfulness of it is also the version of Niue. But Niue called it Kilikoa. But before that, it was called Kohe. The Cook Island has a similar one. But then remember, each of these instruments have duality.
Yes.
So the 4/4 is to warn people or to let people know that there's a meeting about this style. But we also use it to begin entertainments. So maybe all of these equipments, because remember, they exist to serve us. So to either put us to sleep or make you feel better if somebody passes away, or maybe, and one of them is to awaken the royals.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually validating a lot of the comments that I'm seeing on the TikTok that you shared. We have people from Niue saying very similar things. Fiji also saying they have it. But do you know anything about the Fijians on this one?
Fiji, so there is a gentleman, I know the Tailevu Levuka is the family that play it, and they are descendants of a demigod called Ramadake. And Ramadake was a person who was said to have played the Fangufangu. They call it Bitu Denguvi. And so but they play it lying down. And their Fangufangu was a little bit longer.
Wow.
And so he plays it lying down. And I think.
Why do they have to lie down? Is it the airflow of the body or what?
It could be.
Yeah.
You have to understand that our and this is where we have to make sure that we don't lock a definition of something.
Yes.
Right? It's the expression and discovery. Like when I play it, when Uluaki lets me play it at some point, by the time I'm 80, even listening to it, you get a feeling that will not be shared by you.
Yes.
So when you talk about ideologies or theories around these practices, we always say that the instrument will always talk for itself.
Yeah.
So maybe all of those narratives, we weren't alive then. This is the problem with the boat that arrived with hose.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
And I love that analogy that you guys use that as an analogy. I'd love to hear it. Shall we get?
Don't look at me. I don't know how to play it.
Do you know how to play? Are you going to learn it at some stage?
I know how to play it in my mind.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So you want to talk about the piece that you're gonna play?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So throughout this whole week, there's been like a mixture of like my own personal pieces that I've been adding in, and some pieces from the three oldest Tongan dancers. So that's Me Tupaki, Otuhaka, and Fa'iula. So I'll play a piece from one of those three traditional dances for you guys today, and yeah, hope you guys enjoy.
And this is where the antelope comes in. Shake out the snake. Malo.
That was absolutely beautiful, and I'd love to wake up to that every morning.
Well, I mean, I guess being royals and being leaders, you need to wake up to a good environment so you can make good decisions.
Exactly.
When
Clear
you-
mind space in the
When
morning.
you've got a kingdom and big decisions to be made, we all need to wake up to a nice sound and an opening of some kind. So
That was so
Yeah.
beautiful. And who makes it? Where is it made by your family? Did you buy it somewhere?
So that's the interesting thing is my father and I are lucky enough to not only be able to play or be able to have knowledge on it, but we also have the art and the privilege of making also.
Wow.
So all the Fangufangus that you have seen or bagpipes that you'll see on the Sounds of the Moana Composer Tour, and even
Yes.
throughout this week that we've been playing, was all created by my father. So it was it's really special. It's not only from one angle that we're doing this. We're trying to grab as many angles as we can, trying to revive it in as many ways as we can. Yeah.
because remember, you cannot play what you don't have. So in the Tongan culture, and I'm not speaking as a Tongan, but someone who admires and work alongside, there is one favor of making it and the other favor of playing it. Just like the violin. Not all of those who make the violin are good at playing the violin. But the violin is you have a lot of makers, that's where you see it around. For an art form that the Papalangi 1777, the panpipe is when Captain Cook took the last five in Tonga. That was the last time it ever existed in Tonga. His father took a picture because on Captain Cook's boat there was an artist by the name of John Webber. He hand drew it all and with measurements. His father, being a cabinet maker and a carpenter, remade all of them by looking
Mm.
at the image and at the measurements. So now, part of the workshop is most people will get to hear an example of the 5 that were taken by Captain Cook that are currently kept in a museum in Ireland somewhere.
What a workshop
Cold.
to be at. What a
Mm.
workshop to be at.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of you guys. This is such amazing work. And the fact that you guys make it as well
Mm.
is awesome. So, keep that hard work up.
Yeah.
And your workshop is a place where people can actually come and hear this, right?
Exactly. So the workshop is divided into 3. So
Mhm.
obviously, part 1 is you get to go through so we have 3 instruments or 4 that we might be displaying. One is the Fangufangu. The other one, the Tongans call it the mimiha or the panpipe. So if you see the Solomon Island one, the small panpipes that they blow. So we've all had one.
Mm.
Tonga has one called a mimiha. Samoa has one that we don't have a name that's in a book that's currently in Berlin. I don't even know we had that.
Mm.
Like that's how much has been removed from our culture. Then we also displaying tukipitu. Tukipitu are bamboo sticks that it's like bass,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
different sounds. So again, his father managed to recreate them all, and we'll be showcasing what they're used for. Just on the program Tautaia'e with Asiata, we talked about certain Samoan sayings around fishing. Because the only way, remember, sharks and dolphins, they only talk in vibration, right?
Yes.
So and Samoans say when you do certain things, the fish will come.
Mm.
Well, not by tapping the water. You need to beat the bottom of the va'a. The vibration will then go out. It causes the sharks to come in. Tukipitu probably was one of the tools they used, but we don't have any knowledge of. So the hope is people will come in and get to learn. If you want to start your journey of discovering, please go ahead. We'll also talk about the Sounds of the Moana podcast and what it took to put it together. And then we're also opening up the opportunity for our Moana Pacific composers, both Western trained and like Uluaki, passed down from family member to family member, to join SOUNZ, the platform, Centre for New Zealand Music, which all of these things are free. But we need to populate them so that the
Yes.
world can see our creations.
Absolutely. I'm going to be there.
Thank you.
Because
That'll be
definitely
good.
something I'm interested in. Come through. The details for this will be attached to this episode, and we'll also bring the graphics up as well. What time and location?
So the same for Auckland, New Plymouth, Dunedin, Christchurch, and Wellington. We kick off at 5.
Yeah.
Island time, not island time, my lord. Okay.
You take that back very quickly.
Colonizers time. Colonizers time.
So early at the crack of dawn.
Yeah, at 5 p.m. Let's refresh. So we start off at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And then we finish by 8:15.
Amazing.
And we're going with the workshop because I know people are everyone that's written in, they want to touch it, feel it, and learn more about it.
Absolutely.
That's going to be at 5 p.m. to 8:15 to 8:30, depending on the questions that people want to ask.
Yeah.
But it's free from Auckland to Wellington, Dunedin, because why do we charge for things that we were freely inherited?
Absolutely. And I can't wait.
Yeah.
I will be there. We have a lot of mental health issues happening here in New Zealand, and there's a lot of research, a wealth of research in the Western world and every world, how music and sounds can actually contribute positively to bringing peace to one's mind. And I'm hoping that gave me peace.
Even that is something we've already known.
Yes.
But when they came to our lands, they took that away. Isn't that funny? Then they went and rediscovered themselves after sitting under a tree and eat, pray, love.
Yeah.
And then told us back that, hey, actually, music is good for the soul.
Yeah.
I'm like, we know. That's why we have the Fangufangu to calm you down.
Exactly.
But you came and said they were devilish tools. And then after you gave us religiosity, you went back to Europe and became atheists while we're still stuck under the tree of religiosity.
Exactly.
So it's the same with that.
Yeah.
We know this.
And I hate that I have been brought into a world where we have to validate it with research when we've known it through the passing down of our grandparents, and our parents have taught us this. But it's like, is it true? Because they've put in that research factor and it has to be written to be true.
Colonialism won.
Yes.
But not for long.
Not for long. We'll make
it. Going to blow them all away.
I will be supporting you when you do that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I've learned so much through this episode, and thank you for your wealth of knowledge. Thank you for playing for us. And just to end the show, because I like this podcast to end on a positive note, I just wanted to ask you both, what's one proverb, Bible scripture, or quote that has gotten you through this week, or a good message you want to share with our audience? We'll start with you, Uluaki.
I think for me it's just staying strong and staying firm in what you know, and not being deceived or moved by outer energies. When if you know in yourself that this is what it is, be proud, stand tall. That'll be it from me.
What song is it?
Isn't that Backstreet Boys?
You are my fire? Yeah, look, for me, it's really simple. The gold is always in your language. That's always been my saying. In 2005, when I was a part of Mount Vaya, when we took out the best album and we were up against Scribe and Savage, and our whole album was 100% time. What we're like, huh? What the hell? And that's when we found out the gold is always in your language. We did the podcast, it won gold. Why? It was always in our language. So if you are going through life and you are having whatever challenges you're going through, it's because your feet aren't stable. And when your feet aren't stable, any wind can blow you any direction.
Yes.
This is hence you wake up and you are rudderless, right? But if you ever want to start to know yourself, the gold is always in your language. It may not have to be through the people that you came up with, because sometimes trauma, it's through the closest people.
Yes.
So your language doesn't belong to a family, it belongs to a race. So if you're not getting what you're after from where you grew up, that's okay. You weren't made to always hang around family. Family sometimes is what you make of it. But in all of that, the power is always in your language. Hopefully that'll empower you, whatever your language is, language of love, or your own mother tongue, because you can speak English as much as you want. Palangi, look at you. You brown, you're not white. You still not white. So the power is always in your language.
The power is in your language. And to that we say good morning and have a wonderful day.